Hello and welcome to another edition of Political Insider. I'm your host, Herald-Tribune political editor Zach Anderson. With me today is Tramm Hudson. Tramm is a retired banker and former congressional candidate. He also was chair of the Sarasota County GOP when Jeb Bush was governor of Florida, and he's a very strong Bush supporter. Tramm, thanks for coming in today.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. You know, I wanted to have you here to talk a little bit about Bush. The New Hampshire primary is coming up.
Right.
Obviously, this is really big for him, especially, you know, he struggled a little bit, came in 6th in Iowa. People think that New Hampshire is kind of a do-or-die state for him. What are your thoughts on the importance of New Hampshire for him?
Yeah, watching the returns come in from Iowa, it was one of those kind of cases where my takeaway was 75% of the electorate in Iowa said they did not want Donald Trump as their candidate or nominee. And I think what that bodes for New Hampshire has a history of resetting the primaries. And I think if you look at the electorate in Iowa, it's much more evangelical, it's more right-wing, if you will. Go over to New Hampshire, it's more of the New England type Republican, much more moderate. And I think what we'll see there, certainly the popularity of Trump is coming through, but I think that we'll see the electorate trying to make decision who's the best candidate to oppose Trump.
So New Hampshire sets up better for Bush. How good do you think he needs to do there to continue on?
I think really the race is in the establishment lane between the three governors. You got Governor Kasich of Ohio, Governor Christie of New Jersey, and then also Marco Rubio has to be considered in that establishment lane. And frankly, it's going to be a race, I believe, between those three and Jeb.
Well, we've talked a little bit about how Jeb has struggled, and to some people it's pretty surprising because he was really a giant of Florida politics, basically built the modern Republican Party in Florida, a senior statesman on the national stage, but he gets into this race, initially thought of as the front runner, kind of struggles to tap into some of the grassroots of the party, some of the anger that we're seeing in the party that somebody like a Trump has tapped into. What's your perspective on that?
You know, I've known Jeb since 1993 when he first ran for governor. He did not win that race. But he went on in 1998 to become governor of Florida. And if you look at the history of Florida, we were a solid Democrat state. The state House was controlled by the Democrats. The state Senate was controlled by Democrats in 1993-94 timeframe. And with the advent of Jeb and through his leadership and frankly, rebuilding the Republican Party in Florida, we now control the state House, the state Senate, the cabinet positions, and I think that that demonstrated track record of success of leadership is what is going to propel him in New Hampshire and the subsequent states.
Well, you said you've known him for more than 20 years. You witnessed his administration up close. What are some of the things that you think he can really point to, and why do you think they haven't necessarily sunk in so far?
Well, clearly, when you compare Jeb to the other governors or even to Marco Rubio, he has a demonstrated track record of success in governance. Florida is the third largest state in the union, a very diverse state. Not only geographically, but politically. You'd almost say it's a purple state. Yet he was able to enact legislation that revitalized our education system here. I think in terms of taxation, he reduced taxes. He was able to remove the intangible tax. In terms of the work he did in the hurricanes of 2004. Remember, we had 4 hurricanes, and his leadership in making sure our state was prepared for that, clearly to me are the hallmarks of his administration.
And all those things seem like they would be something that conservatives could get behind, conservative reforms to education, tax cuts, and yet there are also kind of these intellectual arguments, these policy arguments. This seems to be kind of a gut election. Is that where Jeb has struggled to tap into?
Well, I think part of it, and I'm starting to show gray hair too, is we're such a transient society, and we have short-term memories.
Sure.
And
yeah, Jeb hasn't been in office for almost a decade.
He hadn't been in office in a decade, hadn't been in the news. He's certainly been working behind the scenes, particularly education is a real passion of his. But I think it's one of those things where people don't remember.
Right.
But as they get closer to having to make a decision who's going to be the best president for us, I think they'll look to see who has a demonstrated track record of accomplishment and success.
Well, we'll see if you and other supporters can refresh their memory on what the governor did. Looking ahead to Saturday, there's another debate, the final debate before New Hampshire. Jeb has also kind of struggled in these debates, but he's done better lately. What do you look for him on Saturday?
I think to draw a contrast between the Marco Rubio, Chris Christie, and John Kasich.
Sure.
I think, and that will probably focus on records of accomplishment.
Right.
I mean, you got to ask yourself, what has Chris Christie accomplished in the state of New Jersey?
Yeah.
I mean, hasn't really been able to work across the aisles to achieve things. John Kasich, very successful in Ohio. Marco Rubio, you really can't look to an accomplishment that he's done. I mean, he's a great orator, but in terms of an accomplishment, what do you point to? And I think Jeb has that.
So you think the debate, just like the New Hampshire primary, is really going to focus on which of these establishment candidates is the best one to kind of coalesce the center-right of the party going forward?
Absolutely. I really do believe that. It's like in a basketball analogy, it's a jump ball.
Right.
And
well, Jeb is tall, so hopefully he
Jeb
can grab
is
that
taller.
ball.
And having run against a guy who's pretty tall, height does matter.
Well, Marco Rubio's got those boots, so you never know. Well, thank you very much for being here, Tramm. I really appreciate it.
Super.
It's a real pleasure to talk to you. We'll wrap that up. That's another edition here of Political Insider. We'll be coming back next week. Please stay with us for another edition next week. Thanks, Tramm.
Super. Thank you.